she explains here that this book is called The Illumination of the Yantaru by Defining Orthodoxy, because it is a reply to this question: how do we recognize qualified scholarship today and avoid unorthodoxy? She says in this introductory part, ask people of remembrance if you do not know. And that means if you want to know how to teach or what to teach, you go to people who know more than you do, who are qualified, who will teach you the right way, and then you pass that on. So these need to be people who are licensed, who have trained with credible scholars. You don't just take your news from anywhere on the street. You always question the source. She says the goal of learning in Islam is transformation of the lower self. This is the greater jihad to corral the nafs, achieving mastery of it. And she quotes Emerson: the goal of education is not to gain mastery of subjects, but mastery of the self. It's the same attitude. So, she says, to end her introduction, on a side note, as for those Orientalists who claim that Islam is patriarchal, I say that our mothers, Aisha, Maimuna, and Salama, all wives of the Prophet Muhammad, are the ones who trained the 7 jurists of Medina, from whom all jurisprudence is derived. And without the invaluable and accurate transmission of prophetic teachings through those women to those men, there would be no Hanafi or Maliki or the other schools of jurisprudence. And the men they trained were these men. And so in following with the tradition of the Isnad, to check each of the links in a chain of transmission for credibility, she says, we want to talk about credibility? Let's go right to the source. From Muhammad to the women, to the men. So here's her training program. It's quite long, and I've just given you the core of it. For the Yantaru student training program, there are 3 levels, 7 parts, 25 texts. In the first one, level 2, 5 parts, 26 texts, 9 parts, 31 texts. And for the Jaji teacher training program, 8 core texts and 4 parts. And here are samples of, well, these are the actual books that she's using. You see that some of them are from the Fodio family, some of them are from others in the canon of traditional Arabic works. Level 3, level 4, a very rigorous approach to Arabic grammar and tajweed, the recitation of the Quran. You see there is a section of Nona Asma'u's materials, history, and tafsir. Then level 2, again with the grammar and the exegesis. Level 3, prophetic medicine, diplomacy, government, tasawwuf, Sufi background, sciences and the conditions of the signs of the end of time. The tariq, information about the Brotherhood, and advanced Arabic. So it's a very rigorous training program for the students. And then the Jaji training program involves these texts that are listed at the top: the Fiqh of Marriage, the Fiqh of Trade, books by the Shehu and Bellu, Arabic texts, Nana Asma'u, memorization, so a lot of hifz of the Quran, and media training. So I think she's very much in the 21st century by explaining to the Jajis that we need to be connected electronically, and you need to train yourself to do this. Here are some images of the teaching that goes on. This is in Columbus, Ohio, and you see the men are working here and the women are working here. And they're all involved in lessons. The Jama'at in Oakland, the Jaji of Los Angeles. I like to show this picture of the Jaji and her husband and their children, because people who are not familiar with Muslim families or cultures are often surprised to see a man with, the children hanging off his shoulders and in his lap. Men are very family friendly and very involved in their families' lives. Here are the Yantaru in Hartford, Connecticut, and another picture of them. You see in this picture, some different ethnicities. It's not entirely African American, some white American, Caucasian American converts, there are new Latina members of the community. And this is Sheikh Mohammed Sharif, who began the Sankore Institute right there while he was in California teaching prison inmates. And this is an example of the illuminated manuscripts that he produces. Now I have with me a printout of that first page of the newsletter, the Yantaru newsletter. But this is the kind of thing that Sheikh Mohammed also produces, translations. He'll give you the Arabic online and the English translation of Osman Danfodio's books. Very, very useful to have them online. And he's now in China, so he's teaching there. So let me go back and just say that the problems that exist for the American Yantaru involve mobility in this country, issues of technology and learning how to be in touch with one another, and the pressures of daily life. As individuals in positions of leadership move around the country and change jobs and devote energy to their families, the viability of particular American Yantaru movements waxes and wanes. On the one hand, technology allows for fewer individuals to reach many more than ever before, and on the other hand, the absence of those very few people might mean that that website doesn't get produced at all. What is significant in this study, and remains true regardless of whether a particular group is profiled on a website, is that Muslim women have, since the inception of Islam, been actively seeking both worldly and spiritual knowledge. The idea of the Yantaru movement remains a model for the mobilization of Muslim women anywhere because it is founded on Quranic precepts that continue to resonate. Muslim women the world over educate and support one another in their own communities. They come together to pursue these interests and support one another, often in the face of criticism or a threat to their well-being. They defend their right to educate and be educated by citing Quranic language that promotes the ideal of equitable treatment for all, regardless of gender or any other characteristic. And each time that a group is organized, it educates the community by virtue of its existence and supplements that teachable moment with the activities in which members engage. So I thank you very much for your attention. I welcome questions.